Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to unequivocally figure out what the best movie is of any given year. I'm your host, Mike Gravano, and this season we're digging into 2001. This week specifically, we'll be talking about Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko. The panelists competing for my friendship and love and talking about Donnie Darko are winner of last week. I should start writing this down, Greg.
Ahoy, hoy, it's me, Greg. I did win last week. I won last week. I feel confident about that. Yeah. It was glorious. I remember. I was like, yes, awesome. Feels good. Pumped up. Take that, darkness.
And the mature competitor who definitely won't throw a fit that he didn't win every week that he feels he should win is Ryan.
So everything I'm about to say does not count as a fit, quote unquote. But I will just say this. We had gotten the results of the election on that day. I know this is recorded ahead of time. I celebrated a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a glass and a half of champagne. I was a little drunk. I watched the movie better than Greg. I did the podcast better than Greg. But Mike could not give me the award because we're a dry podcast, and he had to give it to Greg because Greg sounded less drunk.
If you remember,
even though I did a way better job.
Greg could articulate his points, and Ryan, you were
fire the ball.
If you remember, I decided live on air that Alfonso Cuarón was my favorite director, and that's the kind of thing that's definitely going to get you the victory. You're going to get a couple extra points on that. That's enthusiasm right there.
That's just human drama right there. That really sells it. I'm here for that.
Why, when I said McGee is my favorite director, I won the Charlie's Angels 2 Full Throttle episode.
Yeah, you went full throttle. Nobody thought you could. You fully went full throttle there, Ryan. But we're not here to talk about Charlie Angels 2 Full Throttle or continue to talk about E2 Mama Tambien. We are here to talk about Donnie Darko. And, gentlemen, just what's your general history with this film?
I saw it in 2001, and I was pretty, blown away by it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was very cool, especially the experience of watching it the first time. I was definitely enthralled. I was very confused by what happened in it, but I was back then I was very interested in pursuing what happened in the movie, trying to figure it out. And then I got about halfway through doing that, and I was just like, man, this is dumb. Why wasn't this stuff in the movie? If you're supposed to, if you have to know this stuff to understand what's going on, why wasn't it just in the movie? And then it fell in my estimation over the years since then, I would say, in my recollections.
As you just keep thinking about how dumb that is to not put very important things in the movie.
It bothers me. Yeah, it's because the movie itself, I don't think plays out like you're not supposed to understand. It's not Mulholland Drive. The movie acts like you are supposed to kind of be able to understand what's going on, and I just don't think that's true. I don't think that's really I don't think that's true from watching it.
And Ryan?
I'm going to try to be true and fair and honest tonight, but I think the sentence, it's not Mulholland Drive, is going to just be and that's not fair to the movie, but it's good. We just watched that 2 weeks ago, and fuck, I watched this movie when it first came out, and not before the hype started, but when it first started up, and unlike Greg, I had seen more than 6 movies at the time, so I was like, yeah, this is boring and stupid. I've seen this before. And since then, I have watched only the stock go up. And so this week, I sort of was like, all right, I'm going to get to know why. I watched the theatrical and the director's cut.
Dang.
And
damn.
I'm very impressive. And I there is so much to like.
Yeah.
I think that's where I landed, is that there is so much to like.
I totally agree with that.
But overall, and there's so much to like between the two movies, the theatrical cut explains nothing, and it's real frustrating. And then the director's cut explains everything, and that's real frustrating.
Oh, wow, okay.
So there's so much to like, but overall, I would say that just real quick, Mike, before we dig into the movie, this is definitely the worst movie of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another movie that could fight for that.
But it was,
it just
I would say
I think there's two problems.
Though halfway through it, I feel like it's still pretty good. It's still up on its feet halfway through.
Oh, if you watch this movie in 2 episodes, then I think that you're gonna have crazy different reactions. I think that the first half is a really funny, really creative movie, and then the second half feels like it has to go back and explain everything.
Right. The first half is what a great bizarro version of the Wonder Years we could have gotten. Like, I would watch that show every Sunday about this family for sure, just in this small shitty
It feels
town.
like the beginning of it is like, again, like some other movies, like it's opening a bunch of doors and saying like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And that seems so fun. And it feels like the adventure you're going to go on is like how ultimately we don't really understand what's going on in our lives because it's hard to know what's going on. And then right around the halfway point, the movie's like, okay, no, but wait, something definitely is going on. And let's see if we can like either begin to explain it to you or pretend like that's what has happened.
Yeah, it leaves it the wrong kind of vague where like the more you dig in and like the movie never talks about alternate universes, but all the extraneous materials and like the quote unquote real answer does. And I'm like, I didn't get any of that from the movie. And now I'm madder at you that that's what you think it's about. Maker of this movie.
Okay, so that sort of brings me to my next point, which is being in 2001 and watching Mulholland Drive 2 weeks ago is not fair to this movie. And Mike, as a host, I do not know why you plotted these movies out in this way. But the other thing I kept thinking about is the first season of Movie of the Year that we did was 1999, and this feels like a composite. I watched every movie from 99. The Matrix, American Beauty, Office Space, Fight Club, and then I wrote a script.
And this is what the robot wrote.
Yeah, and then I made this movie, and some of the stuff it improves on, but a lot of the stuff it does not. Right. But it still feels like I am 2 years from 1999. What it didn't know
now
is
that's what I call movies.
Yeah. Exactly. Lady Gaga sings Toy Story 2. Right. What they didn't know is that they were going to have a airplane engine drop out of the plane right after 9/11, but they did know that they were going to be after 99, and I really do think it shows. All of our confused about what the world actually means that 99 gave us is here now.
Well, we're already deeply talking about it in a way we normally don't in the intro, so let's take a quick break and then dive right in to Donnie Darko.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far, and let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com, and it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action, and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review. Bye.
Writer-director Richard Kelly's feature film debut, Donnie Darko, was almost just a footnote in Jake Gyllenhaal's career. After debuting at Sunset, it was nearly released straight to video. Because of the plane crash element, so close to 9/11, it was barely marketed at all. But despite its ignominious beginnings, Donnie Darko found a cult following that grew and grew. Something about the philosophical musings of time travel, dark 80s soundtrack, and the charming disaffected young Gyllenhaal grabbed a generation by the guts, going on to become number 2 on Empire's 50 Greatest Independent Films of All Time list. Taste buds, I ask you this. What do we think Richard Kelly is actually interested in?
Yeah, at first I thought it was going to be like that. What's really interesting is what is it like to be Donnie Darko and to be in that space of, am I having a mental breakdown? Is something really going on? To be imprisoned by like what either feels like supernatural or just like sort of interstellar problems. Like I don't think, some of this kind of seems like it's almost like a space-time phenomenon that's not supernatural so much as like just the kind of things that we don't get exposed to normally here on Earth.
But that being said, though, do you think it's like, which Breakfast Club character are you? Or are you Ferris or Cameron? Or, is this everybody's typical teenage thing brought to this extreme? Like, is that in his head at all?
That's what I thought. Up until and being a troubled kid, I think, which I think troubled kids kind of can stand for all of teens, but I think specifically it's supposed to be like the kind of kids that we were afraid of because in 99 we'd had Columbine, and so now suddenly we were starting to really get afraid of like loner kids. And that's kind of what he is, weird loner guy who seems to definitely be having, mental issues.
And what's interesting there is it's not a loner guy and he has a shitty family. Like, not like American Beauty, that kid and his dad is a piece of shit. This is like a pretty solid family. Sure, they have some questionable politics, but as normal, they're a normal family, right? I don't think they're egregiously bad.
Average for sure, yeah.
No, but I think that it's supposed to be like he's got more of like what is a cultural rather than a family sickness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be this look at this small town and how a normal small town like Pleasantville style, when there's somebody who's quote unquote like even more different than like Seth Rogen and the mullet kid. They're it feels like bad, but he's
as we talk,
but like. They purposely, like, they do not give you anybody else to relate to.
Yeah.
Like, I dare you. Do you know who the mullet kid is, by the way, Mike? California.
No way, really?
That is the lead singer
Phantom
of Phantom
Really?
Planet.
I didn't know he was ever tough looking.
The only other person you can relate to is Jenna Malone. Like, they purposely don't give, like, everybody else is so extreme and terrible, even Donnie's friends, that you really, you will fall down this funnel until Donnie is That's it. That it's got to be you, or you're not going to.
Everybody else,
sorry, Greg, keep
seems
going.
like there's some sort of like caricature or something. But so at first, the movie feels like it's going to lean on that really hard, and then as we talked about in the first segment, it feels like it doesn't have the desire to just have that be the final thing, like a Waiting for Godot style. Like instead, it's like, you know what? No, hang on. Let's start explaining it a little bit, and then you're left over with a lot of questions, especially if you watch the theatrical release. But because of that big tonal shift, I don't know, it fails to really connect emotionally in the way that it felt like the first half of the movie was like setting you up to connect emotionally to the character.
Which is crazy to me, because what I didn't remember from when I watched this in 2001 is that this is just a hangout movie. Like this is close. This is so much closer to a Richard Linklater movie than a Christopher Nolan movie. Everyone wants to say, no, it's Nolan because of dreams and what does what mean, but it's not. Nolan puts a plot on the ground and fucking
his plots are fucking jet engines crashing through young kids. Like, they're very quickly, where this, it really just is episodic, and it's just like, Donnie goes to class. Donnie goes on a date. It really is just like these little vignettes of the disaffected teenager.
And so what that means is that what you're saying is that, like, God bless the balls on Linklater for thinking that he could do this time and time again with Slacker and Dazed and Confused and Everybody Wants Some, because it's hard. And at the halfway point of the movie, we realize that Richard Kelly does not have it. Like, he like, the hangout gets old, and then the explanations come in, and I don't care about any part of
Does the hangout get old, or do you feel Kelly getting worried that it's getting old? Like, were you getting bored with the hangouts?
I think that I was just about to get bored with the hang. I mean, we'll never know, but my prediction is that, like, there was just enough hangout momentum to, like, fill an hour, and Kelly knew that as well.
This movie, is never really deep. It's just, like, slightly deeper than you think it's going to be, but you really do start to see the seams around, like, the third or fourth, like, long Donnie Darko monologue. You begin to feel like, okay, like, I'm kind of watching like the same scene over and over again, which honestly was kind of like the point of the movie, and that's kind of how it was developing. I think it's portraying teenage life as this sort of like directionless, cyclical, not really doing much, not really going anywhere, and likening that to Donnie living that life and then deciding he has to like break out of it by sacrificing himself. But
that reminds me of a theory, Jarhead theory, starring someone.
Tobey Maguire.
Do not remember who was in that. Tobey Maguire. Whereas if the point of your movie is to show boredom, you will be boring.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately what we get.
But I don't think that's the point of this movie. I don't think it's trying to be boring. It's got Nolan syndrome where it thinks it's smarter than its audience often.
I think it's trying to show how smart and how dumb teenagers are at the same time. And it just keeps whiffing on both of those, mostly in the second half. Whereas Linklater is so great. I didn't think we were going to talk about Linklater, but he's so great at showing the depth of the lack of depth of these teenagers and college kids.
And
whereas we're not getting
even other than like Ben Affleck, all of his characters in like Dazed and Confused get little arcs. Like, you see their humanity in them, where this, like we said, is only interested in Donnie and Jenna Malone, and everybody else is fine with leaving the surface.
Yeah, see, I think, like, that's part of what is left open to interpretation if you don't take the director's later, like, no, wait, I have an explanation for everything that's going on. But it does seem like there's, like, sort of weird time cycles going on in this. And I felt like that was supposed to be analogous to teenage life, that you're kind of stuck spinning your wheels and you have a ton of potential and you could change things, but you're kind of just stuck in the same old loop day after day. And it was like dealing with that. And I took that also, that like the reason people are so strange in this movie is because they are kind of stuck in a weird time loop, and they're weirdly aware of it. And I get that from Jenna Malone waving to the president from
the deja vu at the end.
Yeah.
Independence Day.
Yeah,
president.
and because they're all so deeply, deeply weird. If you really think about it, they all are like kind of shells of people. And so then I got thinking, like, maybe it's because they're all stuck. They're all kind of like replaying the same 28 days over and over and over again.
Do you think textually there's enough evidence for that argument that they're all doing that?
Well, I think there are something is going on that's making the world extremely weird. I think the world in this movie is weirder than just like, isn't life strange? I think that the people are even odder than that. I think that they're like, like alternate dimension style weird. And I get the time loop thing from the old lady who's like constantly going in circles.
Checking the mail.
Christina Lloyd.
Yeah, what is it, Lady Death, Old Lady Death, or
Grandma
something like
Death.
that? Grandma Death. And just because of the fact that it does seem like, I mean, there is a time loop in it, right? Like Donnie Darko goes all the way back to the beginning, and then he dies, and that's sort of like what ends it. So it feels like what we're seeing is the very last time this time loop happens. But it feels like maybe like Groundhog Day or Palm Springs style, like maybe it's happened a bunch of times while they try to figure out how to like, because it feels like what has to happen is Donnie Darko has to die, right? That's what's going to like close the loop or whatever.
Have you guys, in your guys' version, in the theatrical cut, did you guys get a big scene about Watership Down and Jenna Malone and Jake Gyllenhaal arguing about that?
We got a lot about
so
like a metal container traveling through space. Noah Wyle talking about it.
Yeah, a lot of Noah Wyle.
Yeah, a lot of Noah Wyle.
So much Noah, man. But I like how his character changed. I appreciated Noah's arc.
Very good.
In the scene with about Watership Down, Donnie is like, I don't give a shit about rabbits, bro. Like, I don't care. They fucking die or they live. It doesn't matter. And then Jenna Malone's like, actually, it is the artist writing the story, and he's making you care. And so we absolutely do care, because that's how stories work. And then their teacher, Drew Barrymore, who we definitely have to get to, chimes in and goes right in the middle. That's what made me realize that this movie is about a tangential universe where a lot of stuff happens in this tangential universe other than the main movie. The main movie's universe we only see for like 3 seconds. The rest of it is all tangential, and it's all these other characters that I guess we don't care about, or maybe we do. And then I started thinking, what does that remind you of? Like, what do you guys do where you watch somebody else's tangential universe and see what characters would do?
D&D?
It's just movies.
Yeah.
It's literally he is talking about movies, and will you care about the things that happen in movies? And then will you do it again and care about the people who are in a movie? And that's where it starts to get interesting. That's where it's like, do I care about the bunnies of Watership Down? But
and Frank's a bunny.
And then also Frank's a bunny. But I think that he gets so into himself about what it means to write a script, and also so nervous about what it means to write a script, that it all sort of crumbles.
Especially when it's not in the real release.
Right,
With
yeah,
that,
I mean,
and like the whole argument, the reason we care about the bunnies of Watership Down and characters in movies is that they are fleshed out and feel real, where, as we've said, a lot of the characters in Donnie Darko do not. So it's, can you care about this thing that's not real? But not with you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is sort of saying, like, oh, here's the thing that I copied while you're filming the thing that you copied, you know? Like, you're sort of saying, I'm so nervous about, will you care about this thing, that I'm giving you permission to not care about it. And that is what happens with this movie.
Well,
I think.
answer me that. We have to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to deep dive into Jake Gyllenhaal's career. Taste buds, as we have so often this season, we're going to deep dive into Jake Gyllenhaal's career, because it turns out this guy's been acting for a while and maybe means something to some people, and we want to figure out what it is and unlock that. So before we go in, we're going to build the Rushmore of Jake Gyllenhaal, his foremost iconic roles from all of his eras. But before we dive in, I want to ask, Ryan, what does Gyllenhaal mean to you?
I think for a while I wasn't a fan. And
Ryan,
I'm sorry. Hold on. Hold on. Let me explain. I think that it's because of the Princes of Persia's, and I am being a fuck ass, and I apologize. But the sort of like, hey, generic brunette white guy, can you do this now? You know, and he was up for Spider-Man, and I feel like Spider-Man is such like a telltale thing of like, I don't know, who's the whitest white person that we have right now? We'll have him play Peter Parker.
Man, it's crazy to think of him as being up for Spider-Man, because I don't think he reads as that at all. Maybe Spider-Man 3, Dark Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. They shouldn't have had
one.
Tobey Maguire go emo. They should have filmed those scenes with Jake Gyllenhaal in the role.
Is it because he's a little mysterious or a little mysterious?
Oh, hang on.
There's an edge to him where even if he is playing straight, there's like something unsettling. Like maybe it's his eyes go a little crazier. Maybe it's like his jaw is a little lupine. But there's something about him if him and Toby were doing the same exact role line for line, I think they're both great actors. You just be like, I'm more unsettled by Jake, which makes me want to watch him.
There is nothing that Toby can do to like unsettle you, you know, and like that's a benefit for Toby. But like Jake, I don't know if when he's being normal, he's unsettling, and when he was being unsettling, that seems fine to me. And then over the last 5 years, he has just like rolled the dice and taken the most insane bullshit possible. And now I think he's one of my favorites. Also, he was in the shadow of his sister, but only I knew that, and the world didn't know that, and that pissed me off.
See, to me, he was in the shadow of his father, Stephen Gyllenhaal. I was like, this playwright,
Stevie
director,
Gills.
oh my goodness. That's not a thing I just learned this week.
Stevie Gills. Yeah, he's got like he reminds me of like and maybe this is informed by Donnie Darko, but he just always seemed like a troubled, you know, like a good-looking kid but troubled. And every movie he's in, even if that's not part of the character, you kind of feel like that edge come into basically every character that he plays.
But I think with a lot of these retrospectives that we do, like if we're rooting for you, if we are hoping that your career goes longer, it's can you be funny even when the script doesn't give it to you? And now I definitely think that he is. There's some like we'll talk about this, Mike, later on in the retrospective. But there's so many times where he is like, "Oh fuck, this is the fucking funniest person in Hollywood right now."
Yes, he gives me a real Drive. Ryan from Drive. Who's the most famous actor in the world? Whose last name I should remember? Gosling. Thank you.
That's our host, Greg.
Where they cannot be a normal person. Like it's just not. There's something about them that they will never, for good or ill, that it'll never be in there. It makes me want to see them together. Should we just dive right into this?
That's Stevie Gills. Stevie Gills ain't gonna raise no normal person.
That's true, because he also raised Ryan Gosling. Little known fact. Let's dive in and make the role. Remember, unlike normal Rushmores, we can substitute and take out and mix and match as we go along. So the first era is from
normal Rushmores work.
No.
Yeah.
No, they are not.
You can move stuff out.
No, you cannot.
All right. I'm sorry. Give Greg a point.
You already know what my eyes look like.
If that is something that you literally can do, nobody has done it forever. We always put them in the maybe pile instead.
Yeah.
You can go suck a fuck.
1998 to 2002. We're skipping all his like little kid roles.
City Slickers?
Okay, we'll put in City Slickers. So 1992 to 2002, but only one
City
from 92.
Slickers.
So you have City Slickers, Homegrown,
Hell yeah.
October Sky, Donnie Darko, Bubble Boy, Lovely and Amazing, The Good Girl, Highway, and Moonlight Mile.
Whoa!
Dang.
That's a big group.
Work much?
Can we slowly go through that again?
Sure. We can do 1998 to 2000 first if you need to.
Thank you.
Plus City Slickers. City Slickers, Homegrown, October Sky, Donnie Darko, and Bubble Boy.
All right, so October Sky was probably the first time. Yeah, I saw City Slickers, but I wasn't like, hey, Billy Crystal, Jack Palance, get out of the way. I need to hear this. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Bring out that kid again.
But October Sky, I thought was like, that was a mediocre movie with an incredible lead performance. I think that's where we saw it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first time you're like, this other Tobey Maguire might be worth watching.
Dark Universe Tobey Maguire loves rockets.
Also, hey, idiots. Hey, you fucking stupid idiots. Think about the letters for October Sky. Move them around in your head. Rocket Boys. It spells Rocket Boys, and that's what they were. Yeah.
Do it again. Right. Vanilla Sky.
And then it also spells Vanilla Sky.
Right? So there you go. 2001's Vanilla Sky.
All right. So from this era, are you suggesting we throw up October Sky?
I am, but I am also saying that Bubble Boy was... that could have been the end. Like, right there. Like, that has ended other actors.
He was the Bubble Boy. And this isn't like a heart-wrenching, what is it like for this kid to live in a bubble? This was like a Tom Green-esque stupid comedy, yes?
This was a Jizz and Piss film.
No, you're classic Jizz and Piss. Is it only known for how bad it is and the name? Like, it's brought up, but nobody's seen it ever.
And I think Amy Smart was in it. So I believe I watched it because there was a time where I was stupid for Amy. Smart.
That's your love of Butterfly Effect for the same reason?
Guys, I'm trying here.
We know. But you're stupid. Donnie Darko? Does Donnie Darko get thrown up on this mountain?
Man, I think so, right? Nothing seems more iconic than Double D here.
So we've thrown the Sky and the Dark?
Especially for at its time, maybe kinda, but now it's huge. It's like the number one the role that people probably think of with him.
And made him a household name, and he was like, no, I will not choose my name. Gyllenhaal. How do you spell it? No one knows. Absolutely nobody knows.
It worked for Maggie, and everybody went, who? And you'll learn her later. All right, so the second half of Who Is This Kid? We have Lovely and Amazing, The Good Girl, Highway, and Moonlight Mile. I'm going to say none of those need to be on Jake Gyllenhaal's Rushmore.
Yeah, right?
But The Good Girl is actually a great movie. This was Jennifer Aniston. Like, you know what? Maybe we don't do what Matthew Perry is doing.
Yeah.
Like being terrible.
Did Mike White
rom-coms.
write it, or is he just in it?
Yeah, it sounds like he wrote it. I don't know. But
it's great.
It's a legit good movie, and he is legit good in it because he has to play the dum-dum, and I don't think that he is.
And he didn't go, boo, he played believably.
At no point did he say derpy, derpy, derp.
Herder.
All right, your next era is 2004 to 2007. We're calling it This Kid Can Act. But unfortunately, we're starting with The Day After Tomorrow, Brokeback Mountain, Proof, Jarhead, Zodiac, and Rendition.
All right. Jesus Christ. I do feel like that we are 2 years away from him being in Ocean's 11, right? Like, if he had busted a little bit earlier, then he would have been one of those stars.
Yes.
Yeah, like the kid.
Get the kid. Day After Tomorrow is like, okay, so now he's going to go after a blockbuster. But what's after that, Mike?
Brokeback Mountain. Which is, I think, when everybody screeched to a halt and wait, we should probably watch Jake Gyllenhaal's career.
Keep in mind, this head would have a cowboy hat on it on the mountain. Okay, I don't know how much that goes into your thinking, but for me, that's big.
And I also think there's a hand with some mountain spit in it.
Yeah,
he was not
an endearing image, huh?
He didn't get to do the Heath Ledger performance, which is just put your tongue in between your teeth and your lips, and just be like. He was the trying to be straight guy who then had to go home, hook up with Anne Hathaway, and be like, "No, I don't like your boobs." This was good. This was a good one.
This was a good one.
Ang Lee directed, right?
Yeah.
At that time, he was action movie guy.
He was famous.
He was you know what? I'm just going to give you one of the most beautiful films of all time.
Because I do what I want. Have either of you heard of or seen Proof or Rendition?
I don't know what either of those
Let's cut those out of conversation and talk about Jarhead and Zodiac.
That was the time where it was all about Bush is president, and we're so nervous about what the new rules are going to be. And Gyllenhaal does this a couple times with new presidents. And Rendition's oh shit, now rules are changed. But we can go to the other ones.
When do you think Gyllenhaal's going to get a chance to weigh in on Joe Biden? When are we going to get his take on what's going on with the Biden administration?
Well, he's got 5 films in pre-production, so I'm sure one of them will be.
Oh, man. I love when you have to host the show, and then you just become expert on this one person's movie. He's like, I know, by the way.
Creepily aware of what his day-to-day life is right now.
5 future movies. I'm sorry, Mike, it's Zodiac and what?
Jarhead. As you talked about earlier, it's boring.
I'm putting Brokeback on the Mountain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have to talk about Zodiac because this is a movie whose stock is screaming red hot.
I mean, stock says best movie of the last 10 years.
And it came out 13 years ago, so that's pretty good.
Impressive. But it's a 3-hander, right? It's Downey Jr. and Ruffalo.
Oh, I was going to say Downey Jr. and Drew
The
Carey's
Zodiac
brother.
Killer.
And he is awesome in it.
Yes, but I don't know if it's one of his most iconics.
But see, I think it's getting there though. But yeah, I mean, just having put Brokeback on the mountain, I guess that does.
Well, how about this? We have a spot left. We'll put Zodiac on. We'll take it off if we need to. But
that's all right.
Let's get Jarhead the fuck out of the conversation because it's a fucking terrible movie by Sam fucking Mendes. I think the guy who made American Beauty, the worst movie we've ever done, a movie of the year. How about that shit? Let's get Jarhead the fuck out of here.
Let's punt that
the fuck out.
I do feel like Zodiac does what Donnie Darko almost did, which is put you in a universe where you're not going to get any answers and you just have to deal with questions. Mm-hmm. And Zodiac is a really good, because nobody knows the answer, and the movie doesn't really like take any swings at who it is, although there are creepy scenes and everything.
But Zodiac did it, and Donnie Darko looked it up and heard it was cool.
Yeah. That seems like a good idea.
It looked it up before. That is all the time we have right now, but don't worry. We will return to Jake Gyllenhaal's career. So who's on the mountain right now, Ryan?
Right now we have October Sky, Donnie Darko, Brokeback, and Zodiac. I would say a solid 50% of those are going to stay.
Yeah. We'll see.
We got 2.
All right. When we come back, more Donnie Darko talk. Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp, he's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out. Taste Buds, I have to ask, we touched on this a little bit. Donnie Darko existing as a teenage film. Do Kelly and Gyllenhaal bring the truth when it comes to the inner and outer life of teenagers?
Okay, so this is a complicated question, and I'm going to answer it by talking about all the different times in my life that I've read Catcher in the Rye, where you go from this main character is such a fucking clever badass, and then eventually you read it and like, oh, this book is making fun of what a fucking idiot this person is. I think, and like, he was 26 when he directed it and 23 when he wrote it. And to me, that's basically a teenager at this point.
Yeah.
But there is no, like, there's so much satire going on in the movie, but not about Donnie and his thoughts. And I really, like, teenagers connect to this movie because it's what is going on through their head right now. But there is no like taking a step back and looking at what teenagers think. I think it's supposed to be like, teenagers, you're right all the time. And I'm not sure that's what teenagers should be watching.
Yeah, the satire is like, look at the mom, the dance mom of Sparkle Motion. Look how absurd she is. At no point is it, Donnie's also sort of an
Donnie is absurd. Donnie is absurd. And he thinks that everything he says is like the first time anyone has ever thought that, which is being a teenager, and more specifically being a high teenager. But Richard Kelly cannot take a step back and be like, well, maybe Donnie doesn't have all the answers either.
Also, there's not like, to me, there's not enough centrality to Donnie. It seems like he shifts to be whatever the movie needs him to be to make a comment on like that aspect of teenage life at that moment. So, we see him as like sometimes he seems not really troubled. Other times he seems deeply troubled. Sometimes he seems like a philosopher. Other times he semes petulant.
And in that same vein, like every time we see an adult, it's basically from Donnie's view. So they're basically parodies of adults. You know,
I mean, they're so one note that like that informed my understanding of what was going on in the universe of that movie. Like, there must be some explanation for why Drew Barrymore's character is like that. Like
Drew Barrymore saying, "Pick the boy, sit next to the boy that you have the biggest crush on," or just in the beginning of the movie, the mom's like, "Oh, my children are all terrible. I will drink another glass of wine." It feels like it was written by a 14-year-old child.
Yeah.
But honestly, what is going on with Drew Barrymore's character? And Noah Wiley's character. Are they supposed to be more than just teachers? Are they like?
Well, they're fucking for sure.
Yeah, they're in bed together at one point.
But remember, there's a part where the two of them are sitting, and she looks at him and goes, "Donnie Darko." And then Noah Wiley kind of like laughs, and they share like a knowing. What's
right?
I think she's supposed to be reading an essay Donnie wrote.
Oh, okay. And
she's like grading. They're like grading next to each other.
Okay.
See, I didn't get that. All I thought was like, all students are terrible. They're all fucking morons. But Double D's, god damn, he's handsome and he's smart, and I love having him in my
Let's
class.
Bring him as a third in this.
Do you want us to both think about him while we have sex during third period? Absolutely.
Do you think then because a big part of who Donnie is mental illness, do you think like the philosophical wackiness gets in the way of telling a grounded, good story of what it's like to live mentally ill?
Yes. I feel like it by wanting to have it both ways, you have it neither way. You know, you can't have it be like, okay, so this scene, what it is we're talking about how mental illness isolates you, and then the next scene just be like, here's just goofing on Donnie being a weirdo.
It made me sort of appreciate Breakfast Club more, you know, like from the last season, because they also all five of them stepped on their soapboxes and they gave these speeches. And when we reviewed Breakfast Club, we were talking about how like, all right, middle-aged white man wrote all this shit. But now I sort of look at it as like, but those are as stupid as kids would do. Kids would think that these are important, but they're not. At one point, if those characters watch the movie The Breakfast Club, they'd be like, what was I thinking? Whereas this feels like it's almost Kevin Smithian, and it's like, god damn that, look at him go. He's so smart, and he's here just to teach people how to fucking be.
I was thinking that this movie has seen Reservoir Dogs, because it really feels like the pop culture speeches that are in Reservoir Dogs. Like, okay, here comes, now I'm going to like tell you everything that you never knew about Smurfs.
And it's hard for us to be like, hey guys, let's watch Donnie Darko and then talk for 2 hours about how smart we are when we watch Donnie Darko. But still, if anybody brings up anything, it's like a time for characters in this movie to be like, oh, here we go. Here's how I think about all of life. And there's no tongue-in-cheek. There's no irony. It's just like, look at all of the great speeches Richard Kelly can write.
It's interesting because Donnie's two friends are some of the dumbest characters in the entire thing.
And evil.
They're just as bad as Seth and Mullet.
They out-evil Seth and Mullet.
And, well, they do give the words of wisdom that keg beer is for pussies. So
yeah, I didn't know that
pro.
Until this movie.
Yeah. Well, that's why Mike was always screaming boxed wine at every party that we went to.
Because not for pussies. When he's going off his Smurf thing, if they hadn't been such fuck-ups the entire movie, they're rolling their eyes at him at first could have been the movie pointing out that Donnie can also be absurd, but because they are the villains, instead it's just like, well, the idiots don't even get it, so of course Donnie's awesome.
But I mean, they say like, damn, Donnie, God, we're just trying to hang out, and everything you say is so smart. Why is everything you say so smart? All we're trying to do is drink beers on a couch and talk about cartoons and fucking verbally berate every chubby Asian chick we see. Why do you have to bring this to such a fucking intelligent level?
With that, he's nice to her a couple times in the movie, but he's not really nice. He doesn't stop it. He's just like, hey, you're be quiet, guys.
Consider
is it just
not
to show
bullying her.
Is it just to show he's better than them?
I think he's not. I think it's, I think we see him evolve morally over the course of the movie. And part of what we see is that he goes from, I'm not going to actively harm people, but I also won't go out of my way to save them, all the way to, I will actively go out of my way not only to save them, but I will sacrifice myself like the true Jim Cunningham would.
Yeah, I think
be the real JC in the movie.
Throughout the entire movie, I think that he is just so into Donnie's shit that like he doesn't even notice how they're treating this person. So if he says, "Hey, stop bullying her," it's like it's barely an afterthought, which then makes her fall in love with him.
Yeah,
that's how high school works. But all he's thinking about is my thoughts, my bunny, my dreams, my whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That like he can't even like see how awful his two best friends are treating other people.
Yeah, I mean, if the movie sometimes feels like it's a universe just for Donnie Darko, in part that is very much Donnie Darko's experience of it. So she is not a three-dimensional person. She is only either someone being bullied, someone that needs to be rescued, someone that needs to be like, given like a little pat on the head to occasionally, but not her own, three-dimensional person.
Let's go through this right now real quick because of the director's cut. So we talked about storytelling before and Watership Down, but basically everything that we're watching is this tangential universe that every single person in the tangential universe is pushing Donnie towards his goal. So everything that is said and done does that. And that's why I think it's like a play on screenplays, but also that's why you have to flood the high school so you can walk with Jenna Malone, so that you guys can become girlfriends, so that you can save that. And what that does is sort of like take away the excuse of like, this feels contrived, this feels boring. That is why all of these people do these things that are not human, that do seem weird.
Because they're all trying to get him to the one place.
Like how all movies work, but also how all teenagers think. All teenagers think that like, oh, what are you? You're in my movie. You're in the movie that is all about me, and I guess you're doing something to convince me to go over here.
Yeah, my favorite teacher in high school retired after my senior year, and I said, that makes sense because I'm not here anymore, so why would you have to be?
That is teenage as fuck.
We connected this a little. So time travel and man bunnies aside, is Donnie Darko, we said it's a composite of 1999 specifically, but is it just a way better American Beauty? Did it lift off the right things?
I think that when the movie is the most successful, it's when it's Richard Kelly sort of talking shit and jerking off on suburbia in I think a way more interesting way than Alan Ball and Sam Mendes did with American Beauty. I think that's when it gets to time traveling, I think that's when the movie falters. I think when it's the commentary, I think that's when it's the best.
I think that its view of like the suburbs as in point in fact as weird as if they are an alternate dimension is a good one. But I think when he's at his best is when he is making music videos. This is a movie that so badly wants to just be a series of music videos, and it's really good when he's doing it, and I think he helped breathe new life into like a lot of these songs. But
also when we watch the movie that makes no sense, and then the director's cut, which makes a little more sense but is kind of boring, and then when we think about Southland Tales, which was a 3-hour movie that makes no sense, this is just sort of his jam, right? Like he understands how music works, and he understands how non-dialogue storytelling works. And when he puts a song on, he can do so much good in storytelling. And when that song is not on, he just doesn't really know what to do.
Do you think maybe he should be director, not writer? Would that be able to lift him up?
Honestly, I hadn't thought of it, but I think that might be something, because I feel like he's able to create the emotional space that he wants through music and image. It's just, I think when it comes right down to it, he's not sure what he wants to say, and if he wants to say something, and how far he wants to go to saying it, and if somebody else made those calls, that might help him a lot.
And if he's paying homage to something else, or if it's too much, and if he's
or
just
am I
stealing,
ripping it off?
Yeah, like you see all that in the music, and you see that I think in the first hour. Again, we've talked about how the first hour is much better than the second, but in the first hour when Donnie's riding home and we see the dad like sort of like spraying Maggie Gyllenhaal, and like we're just getting to know this house in suburbia. That song, I don't remember what it is. I think it's in excess.
Killing Time. Killing time.
And also,
is here.
it's different for both of us. They switched it for the director's cut.
Oh, come on.
But
in the director's version, do they still play Notorious when the little girls dance?
yes, they do.
Notorious.
Okay.
But with no,
They
with
used
no
that
Biggie
version.
Smalls, which is weird. But then when we get to this, and I thought that was perfect. Like that was a perfect musical montage. When they get to the school, it's twice as long as it needs to be. Like when they go to Cheers for Fears head over heels, now we're seeing way too much, and he just loses control of it. He just gets all up in his business.
We go down the hallway, and you're like, okay, school montage. And then it turns, and you're like, a different school. Now a different part of the school. You're like, why is this going? Like, it literally ends and then just keeps going. And you're like, and now we're focusing on Drew Barrymore. Is she a character I should actually care about? And it sets you up like you should. But no.
That would be a mistake.
We have to take a break. Before we go, I did want to... I've run into a problem. And Greg, maybe like you're like the tech guy at the Pop Filter team.
You just want to do this during the show.
Yeah, I think it's like a teachable moment to show that like even though we're great at making podcasts and stuff, that we can be fail.
Like Drew Barrymore would do, because she's a teacher.
Yes. Cellar door. So I want to make a website, and I've drawn it up on my whiteboard.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what to do there after that.
Yeah, I think you just you get a hosting website, and then you code it, and you just put it in there, and you get it right up on the old internet.
What do you mean there?
Okay, so you guys know how I love when you bond, and I hate to interrupt when the two of you are hanging out.
That's so ironic, because you were literally interrupting this very moment.
Yeah,
I said that I hate it, and you can feel my hatred. But
we can feel your hatred for sure.
I do have to say that you guys are fucking dumber than dog shit, and I think that there is an answer for you. I think that both of you, if you guys could just try Cybersprout, that could solve all of your problems.
Cybersprout? What's that?
Well, Greg, Cybersprout is your partner for the digital world. Let me ask you this, Greg.
Wait, they're Greg's partner, and he didn't suggest that? He told me I should learn how to code? Greg, you should have just pitched your partner to me.
Oh, stupid dumbass. They're your partner as well.
What?
Yeah, and they're my partner.
That's why I didn't even think to do it, Mike, stupid dumbass.
And they could be anybody's partner.
Don't
because
use my full name.
If you're the kind of person...
Mike, stupide Dumas.
If you're the kind of person who says, I want a website, I'm going to draw something on a dry erase board and then put it in my floppy disk drive, that's actually not how it works, guys.
Oh.
Well, how does it work then, Ryan?
Well, I mean, Greg, you wouldn't pay for a house without receiving the keys to the door, so why would you expect anything different from your website provider? Cybersprout provides tools and training that make managing and tweaking your business websites a breeze. So if you have a dry erase board or like a door with a key, and you think those are websites, they're not. You actually have to call Cybersprout, and they will figure that shit out.
So they'll give me the key to unlock my website?
From easy-to-edit fields, custom templates, and drag-and-drop tools, you have the power to keep your site current. And
drag and drops? What are drag and drops?
Easy.
Okay, hold on. I do have to, because Greg is one of those people. Drag, space, and space, drops. We're not talking about dragons pooping, if that's what you thought.
I thought it definitely was like a giant flying dragon. It's a little constipated. It just makes that sound.
All right, so you guys are the type of people who, when somebody says super salad, you were like, yes, I would love a salad with a cape around
every
it. I would like
single
a super,
time.
And
I
it's
just
always
had
funny.
a massive salad
Every single time.
with the goat cheese in it.
No, it's actually a question. Soup or salad, drag,
Fucking soup.
and drops. You will have the power to keep
I'll
your
take
site
drops.
current. And if you need help, Cybersprout is always available for you two. And you guys seem like you need so much help.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do need help. How did they... So, what's the best way? Do we just go to like cybersprout.net? Is that how they would help us?
Just write this on your dry erase board. Cybersprout.
Put that in your floppy disk drive. No, definitely go to cybersprout.net. And I cannot believe the prices. They will work with you. They are affordable, and they will make whatever your stupid idiot idea is into a magical dream of drag and drops.
Okay, I definitely know what my next website's going to be about. Just fat piles of drag and drops. Thanks, Cybersprout.
That's what you asked for, Cybersprout. Bye.
Taste buds, it is time to keep our deep dive into Gyllenhaal's career going. The next era is 2009 to 2013. and I'll slow down given the notes that were given on air.
Just slow
The last
down.
version of this.
Isn't that your favorite? Is on air notes?
I love on air.
That way the audience can
For
see if
sure.
you're following the notes or not and weigh in.
Again, teachable moment is what we always want to do here. So from 2009 to 2013, it's normal movie star Jake Gyllenhaal. So the first half is Brothers, Prince of Persia, Love and Other Drugs, and Source Code.
All right.
Prince of Persia.
Is Jake Gyllenhaal, like, did he just accidentally fall prey to the fact that we don't have movie stars anymore? Or is he partly responsible for the fact that, like, oh, this is our movie stars? Well, then we don't have movie stars anymore.
I don't want to put this at Jake's feet. I don't want to do that to him. I think he's too weird. And Brad Pitt's weird, but he can still pull off more movie star stuff. Like we talked about in the first, and I'll say we're all big fans of him, but that unsettling part of him means he can never just be a normal dude in a movie or a hero like in Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
And he's not the reason that movie's garbage. But this is the era where they were trying to pitch him. It was wrong guy, wrong place.
Yeah, you
Wrong time.
gotta say no with the kind of like precision that you say yes with. You know, you gotta know, like when they come at you with the Prince of Persia, you have to be like, okay, no, for two reasons. One, I don't think I can be this type of leading man, and two, I'm not Persian, right, guys?
Yeah, that's always
You should
important.
definitely have brought up that.
And that's the other thing too, is that like he was thinking like Brendan Fraser and the Mummy. And I would say to everyone who is ever about to take a role in any Hollywood movie ever, you're not Brendan Fraser.
You
in the
ain't
Mummy.
Brendan Fraser, all right?
I wake up every
You're
morning.
not
in the morning and
tossed
say that to
salad.
myself.
You're
Hey.
not scrambled eggs, okay? Fraser has left the building.
Hey, Tom Cruise, you want to be Jack Reacher? Sorry, you're not Brendan Fraser in the Mummy. Hey, Tom Cruise, you want to be in the Mummy? Sorry, you're not Brendan Fraser in the Mummy.
Which is the most boring version of Tom Cruise in The Mummy. So, Brothers, I cannot even remember.
I know that
Is
they...
this a boxing movie? No.
Brothers is the one where they can't shake hands. They've got a hug, right?
Is this with him and Toby?
No, that was with one was Niles and the other I can't remember the other's name. And
Frasier?
I don't remember it, Greg, and you can't make me remember.
Bulldog?
I think it was Bulldog.
Roz?
And they had to live in Seattle with Roz.
Maris?
Okay, let's talk about the last two then from this chunk of this era is Love and Other Drugs and Source Code. Two movies I actually really fucking like.
All right, so Love and Other Drugs is an interesting one because we were like, Jake Gyllenhaal, Anne Hathaway, this will be a super hit. No one gives a shit. No one's going to go see your stupid movie.
I have said and will continue to say that Love and Other Drugs is the movie people think Silver Linings Playbook is. That movie, Silver Linings, sucked and was uninteresting, and Love and Other Drugs is
This
not as stupid Hollywood bullshit.
did this
and
come
a lot
out
of
right
fun.
around the time that everyone decided at the same exact moment they hated Anne Hathaway?
Probably.
It felt like there was just one day. Like you went
Hold on,
to-
shut up, Greg, shut up. Is
Okay.
this the second movie that we've talked about where Jake Gyllenhaal looks at Anne Hathaway's boobs? I think that it
Yeah.
is. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Sometimes that's why you got to make your career. Is what's the likelihood?
Hey, let me ask you this before I take this role. Am I going to see any boobs?
But
As
then
an-
Source Code, I think, was somewhere between Donnie Darko and Prince of Persia, where like it was a little bit of a cult hit, it was a little bit of an actual hit, and I think that he was responsible. Like he was,
Yeah.
he was running through a Hollywood movie, and we all sort of like to watch him run through things.
And this is it's just so even after I said it because I really like this one. It's him and Michelle Monaghan, right? He just keeps going on the same train and it keeps blowing up.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
It is awesome. Also, Michelle Monaghan. At some point, our movie podcast should talk about her.
Oh, Hall of Famer.
She's dope.
Hall of Famer, for
Right?
sure. Mission Impossible, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Why is she not a star?
True Detective. But yeah, Source Code. Also, it's sort of before we got that other Tom Cruise movie. It's a little bit of a action Groundhog
Die,
Day.
repeat.
Yeah, so that's all we want in movies is just be Groundhog Day.
So, do any of these though still
No.
belong on that Rushmore? Or are we moving right
I
on?
say no.
I don't think so.
All
You
right.
got to say no.
The back half of his "Can I be a normal movie star?" era is End of Watch, Prisoners, and Enemy.
Okay,
So
I've seen Prisoners, and he's definitely what is good about him in that movie. He's Detective Loki, and he's definitely like sort of like a creepy guy with an edge, and they never go into exactly why he's so creepy and has such an edge. And I think that really works for the movie. I think he is one of the good parts of Prisoners.
And the thing about Prisoners, and I'm not just channeling former host of Superhero Show Taylor right now. I love Prisoners because I saw Denis Villeneuve as a great director long before anybody else did. That's really the only reason that Prisoners is memorable. I've never seen it. It's not really talked about that much anymore.
Well, talking about your Jake Gyllenhaal will always make a movie to comment on our president. This is Bush and just the sheer let's embrace torture. Because maybe torture can lend goodness.
Yeah, this is
interrogating that.
This is the torture movie. Like maybe we can torture things into knowability.
Also, it's a perfect end of Stars thing. It's Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, and we're like, this will be great. And then it wasn't, and then we're like, there's no more stars. That should have been a huge blockbuster. The other one is End of Watch, which I think is still talked about a lot. Like, there's a lot of people who like it. I'm just not sure I like the people who talk about it. This is David Ayer, the guy who went on to make Suicide Squad. And this is a movie where, like, cops are fucking fun, guys. When they're in their car, they're having fun. When they're beating on fucking people of color, they're having fun. It's just a romp. It's just a good old time.
Yeah. I don't think it's exactly the same, but the kind of people who, like, get Boondock Saints tattoos also really seem to want to tell you how good End of Watch is.
End of Watch starred Michael Pena. Can we do a Michael Pena career retrospective at some point?
I would love that too.
That guy should be in the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
He's so good. All right, so nothing from
I
Jake
say move
Gyllenhaal,
on.
normal movie star, is on the mountain. So in this era, it's 2014 to 2016. I could be the indie superstar though, right? Is Nightcrawler, Accidental Love, Southpaw, Everest, Demolition, and Nocturnal Animals.
All right,
Nightcrawler is the real standout of those. Like,
hell yeah, it is.
And Nocturnal Animals was the follow up to what was that? A Handsome Man. The guy Tom. Help me out, guys. Here.
A Serious Man.
A series, but Tom Ford's movie. It did not go as well as his one before that. So right now, Nightcrawler is the one that's standing out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Nightcrawler, I think, was that. The way that he's still riding of people like, wait, no, Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler is what did that. Also, I can't remember that. I can't believe it was so long.
Double down on the creepiness is what this is.
Southpaw was supposed to be like his Raging Bull, his Rocky, and nothing. Like literally nothing.
The problem with that is it was written with Eminem in mind to play the lead. So I don't think you're going to get anybody's Raging Bull Rocky with that.
When you say Eminem, do you mean Marshall Mathers or like those cute candies that were in like fake movie trailers?
The yellow one.
The yellow.
Yeah, it's got to be yellow,
right? Oh, I think I can take him. Don't throw in the towel. I just always sound like this.
Something's coming off the mountain for Nightcrawler. That's what I say.
What was the last one to be put on there?
The way that he could be blue and with a fencing sword and jump around from scene to scene. We have October Sky, Donnie Darko, Brokeback, and Zodiac.
I think Zodiac.
Because it's not a lead?
It's not a lead. It's not what people like. Oh, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal in that.
Yeah, okay, that's a good call.
And also, this shouldn't be a Rushmore, right? It's a Gyllenhaal Hall of Fame? Is that what we should call it?
Yes. That's what it's called for sure. You get that. You and your damn special brain. All right, the final era, 2017 to 2019, because he hasn't done anything in 2020 yet.
Lazy Bones Jones, jeez.
Lazy Bones. So we'll do it in two chunks here. The first half is, and this is the balance between fame and I want to make weird, quirky Jake Gyllenhaal type things. Okja, Stronger, and Wildlife.
Stronger was the other one, just like what was it, Southpaw, where it was like, oh, I'm gonna get a goddamn Academy Award, and then no one saw it.
That's the Boston Marathon movie, right?
Yeah, and then he got injured, and then had to. I think, and this happens to a lot of actors, but I think that Prince of Persia did so much damage that he took two routes. One, I'm gonna get that fucking Oscar, and that did not go well, or I'm gonna be a fucking idiot goofball. And those are the only two options. Like, I think he's done until, like, we get to Marvel movies, but, like, I don't want to be Tom Cruise anymore. And I think that is the best decision he could have made.
I don't want to, when thinking about what my next project is going to be, I don't want to think like, how am I watering down my brand, or how am I going to make sure that I don't take even a lateral movement, only a movement that makes me more of a star? Because there's things coming up that he could not have done if he were Tom Cruise, because it would just, his cachet would ruin
And
it.
I think it's actually two reasons. One, Prince of Persia, and two, and we could just say this now because you can't prove me wrong, working with Heath Ledger. I think working with Heath Ledger, he was like, fuck, dude, okay. I want to do that. Yeah.
But I think Night is, so Prince of Persia is the punch down. I think Nightcrawler is the punch up, because I don't think Tom Cruise could do Nightcrawler and still be that kind of Tom Cruise he is. It's not the Oscar kind of bait. Look at me, I'm being bad. It's a truly despicable character to hang out.
Yeah, it's
with.
awful, and it just you feel worse about him like the more into the movie you go.
Tom Cruise is great. We've never done a Tom Cruise retrospective, and I want to so bad. But Tom Cruise is great in two ways. One, because he's being super Tom Cruise, or two, because the director is making fun of him and he doesn't know.
Yeah.
That's how he's awesome.
So the last half of the balance, we have The Sisters Brothers, Velvet Buzzsaw, Spider-Man Far From Home, and it's not a movie, but special mention, The Sack Lunch Bunch.
All right, so
Yes.
I want to talk more about Okja. We could. This is like against everything that Movie of the Year stands for, but we could solve my Okja problem by putting the Sack Bunch thing in, because Okja felt like just practice for John Mulaney.
Because it's just his character's so goofy in it.
So over the top, so crazy,
And just like not. Oh no, I'm doing it to 110%, and it's gonna be fucking amazing, guys. The reason he was late is because he tried on all of his own clothes. He had a model, he had a model show with all of his own clothes. He just screams at children the entire time. That's how acting is.
In Okja.
No, that's a Sackland. That's all Sackland.
And Okja is Bong Joon-ho, who now everybody knows is Parasite, but that guy makes good films.
Yeah.
Go watch Okja.
But I would say that as much as I love Okja and as much as I love Bong Joon-ho, Jake Gyllenhaal stood out a little bit. Like he was a little differently colored than the rest of the movie. Whereas Sack Lunch Bunch, this is where you belong. This is your fucking.
It's like the perfect moment in the perfect show.
Yeah, I've gone back and just watched his part.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So have I, yeah.
And that's specifically I think what I was thinking about when I said, like, if you have too much cachet, that's not the kind of thing you can do.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be comfortable for everyone. It would ruin your next movie. But he's allowed at this point to do just whatever he wants, and that energy that he brought to that. Yeah, I think this is the one that goes on the mountain, because I think this is his most recent triumph.
I think that if we rewatched Far From Home, we could see I was gonna be you. I was almost there. I was almost like the teen beat kid, but now I'm older, and so now I know how to manipulate you and do this shit. And I think that we are Quentin Beck Mysterio from Far From Home is playing a little bit with the Jake Gyllenhaal thing, but not as much as Sack Lunch Bunch. How is that deniable?
Yeah, it is undeniable. So, Ryan, read off our Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, I have to cut something.
You have to cut something. Oh shit! What's on there
October
now?
It's October Sky, right?
It's October Sky. Kick Rock's October Sky. We got the Mr. Music Man.
And we're of course gonna have to do the whole bust for this one. It can't just be his head. It has to be, because you have to get that marching band.
Yeah.
Is that his actual name, Mr. Music Man?
It's something like that.
Isn't it Mr. Yeah, Mr. Music?
Mr. Music. All right. Your Rushmore for Jake Gyllenhaal's entire career, and sorry, Jake, this will be it no matter what you do from here on out, is Donnie Darko, that one guy from Brokeback Mountain, that one guy from Nightcrawler, and Mr. Music. And I think that absolutely shows every corner of his range.
Yeah, that encapsulates him. All right, we're going to take a quick
welcome,
break.
America.
I'm going to watch Source Code, and then when we come back, we're going to finish talking about Donnie Darko.
Well, that is very, very funny, or very sad, and perhaps now you have something to think about, or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody, keep watching them movies.
Taste buds, we've danced around a lot of this in different ways, but I just got to flat out ask, is this a Jake Gyllenhaal showcase, or is there an argument for the ensemble?
It's weird. The movie makes me think about like HBO shows, and it doesn't matter who comes on, like whether it's Deadwood or The Wire, you're gonna act good now, you know. And then you can go on and like act shitty in other movies or TV shows, but for this show, you're gonna act good. I don't know how they do it, and I don't think that this movie does it. I think that this movie comes as close as movies do, but it's so crazy, and there's so much stunt casting that it's part of the thing that keeps the vibe always moving the entire time.
And you know the music video Black Hole Sun?
Won't You Come?
The music video for Black Hole Sun features a very weird world that gets weirder and weirder, and this is like one of the steps along the way is the Donnie Darko universe. And because of that, I think that it keeps a lot of people from delivering like great performances because they're not quite people. They're like kind of extremes, or they're one facet of somebody. And I think that people do within that role, people have different levels of how much they manage to even pull that off. For me, the standout terrible is Drew Barrymore. This is probably the worst performance in the history of this show. Is she mocking
English teachers? Like, it really feels like she hates the character she's playing.
It feels
what a
like she's supposed
asshole she is.
Yeah, it seems like she's kind of supposed to be like satirizing a teacher from one of these movies, even in that space, even as a satirical act. It's still awful. It's still really, really profoundly bad.
It reminded me of the guy who gave the poetry assignment in 10 Things. And that guy was, in a lot of ways, a terrible teacher. Like, he would just scream at kids to get out of the classroom. But he was cool, you know? Like, all the kids liked him. This was all of the ways to be cool for kids to hate you, and then all of the ways to be terrible so you're not a good teacher.
It kept seeming, she basically bragged, was like, well, I read this to the kids she's supposed to be teaching instead of teaching them why they should read insert here.
I wonder, Mike, if you host a Drew Barrymore retrospective, if we just find this at this fucking nadir of her knowing how to be a kid actress and an adult actress. And this is like, I've never read a script. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is insane.
Even the way she holds her left hand as she reads the passage from the Graham Greene novel, like just the way her hand is moving there is so artificial and so uncomfortable. And then Noah Wyle is doing better than she is, but also seems to be in a completely different space.
Drew Barrymore is terrible because we're watching her make choices and they're wrong. Noah Wyle is terrible because he's making no choices. He's just fucking standing there and he doesn't know what movie he's in, and I'm not sure.
ER, everybody.
I'm not sure anybody knows. I think that they told what's Dwight's girlfriend's name? Remember that girl that Dwight brought to the dinner party with the neon light? His babysitter.
Oh yeah. What is her name? I don't. Oh, the actress's name?
I can't remember her name, but
the mom of Sparkle Motion.
The mom of Sparkle Motion. She's just going full bore, so she knows what to do, right? She's like, oh, I don't have to be 3-dimensional. I'm going to be 2D. But
Swayze doing the same thing, classic Swayze.
But like all the people who are trying to do something in the middle, they don't know where the middle is, and so it's this crazy double dutch. Like, oh, it hits my ankles every time.
The one Noah Wyle moment I liked, and I do think there is literally one, is when Seth Rogen and Mullet are openly talking about her dad stabbing her mom in class.
Get
and he
out!
doesn't scream at them. He doesn't say get out. He just he points to the door and goes out. Like, I was like, that is actually a good teaching moment. Don't start screaming.
I know a lot of teachers. Back before I became a famous podcaster, I thought about teaching, and that's something that all of them use all the time. It's just point to the door and say out, because they're terrible.
And with the kids you have to do that with, it's so procedural at that point. They know exactly where to go and what's going on.
Oh, here we go.
All right, later.
Because we said stunt casting, is Swayze a stunt? Like, what counts as stunt cast? Those three? Are those the big three? Swayze, Noah, and Barrymore?
We got to talk about Swayze because, Mike, I almost texted you and said, should we...
Swayze.
Just Swayze. What do you think, bro? Should we be doing a Gyllenhaal retrospective? Does Swayze deserve a retrospective? So I looked up his IMDb, and he was like, the beginning of the 90s, just 10 years before this movie, the single biggest star.
Yeah.
And then there was like a couple of stumbles, and then this was stunt. Look how crazy it is that Patrick Swayze is in this movie, and he is there to like be handsome and like comforting, even though we know that he's disgusting. I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he definitely is. I'm just not sure how much he knows that he is, or Richard Kelly is tricking him.
Well, especially because he's just like a shitty pastor vibes is the whole time, but motivational speaker. The only time we get that he's bad is like Donnie finds the porn room when he lights on the fire, and then in the worst of all the montages at the end when everybody's just like crying and you realize maybe they all knew what was going on. He's sitting there crying, but it's a month before he gets arrested. It makes no sense. Like, I guess he's crying because he's is into child porn, but it's the only like crack in the veneer of him being the charisma version of himself. So he doesn't have enough to dig into. In
the deja vu is real montage, he thinks maybe I should not be a child porn hound anymore.
Yeah.
I feel really bad about that, but I think that he does manage to. I don't think there's a lot he's supposed to do in this movie, and I think he does a good job of giving you the sways and then enough of it so that you know it's creepy. I mean, you know that there's going to be something creepy behind the veneer of this guy.
Love,
and I mean, like,
or fear, Mike. Honestly, I thought it was fear.
I do think, like, especially with the whole Dukakis Bush thing, like it's hard not to think about this movie in the terms of Biden Trump, and we're supposed to think, even though Kelly didn't know this at the time, that Swayze, is Trumpian. He's cult-like. He can make you believe these things, even though he is awful and two-dimensional, and that Donnie is going to be the one who brings the truth and says, like, that's all here. It's all like sort of predictable where we are. And I do think Swayze does a good job of being handsome, being charming, always like turning towards the camera at the exact right moment.
Yes.
But still always being like, I do not trust you and you're creepy as fuck, bro.
Yeah,
his video was like perfect 88 video. That was like those production values. I don't think unless you grew up watching videos at that time, you would never know how spot on that is. But that's exactly like how all that stuff was produced back in the day.
I don't want a podcast like this anymore, guys. We're on Zoom right now, and all I would like is for us to turn our chairs away from each other, and then when we have a good point, turn the chair towards each other and scream the point.
I'm not going to be afraid anymore.
Which, and I got to say that, like, that seems like something that's been parodied a billion times. Like those, like, cheapy, feel-good videos. And Donnie Darko does take it up a level. Like, it did a really good job of making those seem even dumber than they actually are.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And Beth Grant. That is the Sparkle
Beth
Motion.
Grant, yeah.
I want to give her, because she is great in everything she's in. And all the versions
question
of
your
that character.
commitment to Sparkle Motion.
But just born with a face of just like an all-time Leslie Knope enemy. Like, she can only be that person.
She's the proto Karen, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I mean, she's like the Karen that all other Karens bow down to.
When five Karens
notice your party's slightly loud.
When five Karens come together and like become a Voltron, it's Beth Davis. That's who they become. Yeah.
Complaining, calling the cops.
Speed round. You know what that means, because it said it. Speed round. Outside of easy costumes, why set the movie in a Catholic school?
I think this movie thinks like gods are dumb but interesting. Like, is Donnie Darko different than Ryan? Like,
they wear uniforms, but is it a Catholic school?
Oh,
yeah, because there's a big cross. I mean, it's definitely a Christian school.
Well, it has the typical Catholic thing of a giant bulldog landing Iron Man style right in front of the school.
Yeah. That's definitely in the book of Leviathan.
It felt like alluded to, but without ever explicitly said exactly what the religious orientation of the school was. Because whatever it is, it has been totally supplanted by love-theoryism.
Yeah.
Speaking of love-theoryism, what subject is Beth Grant supposed to be teaching these kids instead of love-theoryism?
Oh, shame. I've never been to like a religious school, but shame. She teaches shame 101, and she just wants...
I honestly thought it was PE.
I think it actually is PE. Somebody says you're a gym teacher at some point. I went,
instead of the parachute, she busts out those instructional videos.
Look, no, I learned more from that parachute than any other class ever. And she really did those kids
Mushroom.
a disservice.
Remember the Mushroom guys? That was a great one.
What's a more on-the-nose band for this soundtrack than Echo and the Bunnymen?
Peter and the Rabbits.
Blink 180 Darko. I did not come prepared for this.
I'll give that one to Greg. Does this movie manage to feel like as much of a tribute to 88 as it seems to think it is?
Musically, I feel like it definitely is, but I think because we now have like had the hyper saturated like Stranger Things style shows where the references are just like pouring down on you all the time.
Hey,
it feels like
I used my
needed in
walkie-talkie to
comparison.
talk to you about Alf while we were watching Golden
In the
Girls.
food court, yeah. Like, it's just festooned. And so nowadays, for something just to be set in the 80s, it's like, oh, okay.
But
I genuinely
What's your
think the first 10 minutes were a little grainy and a little weird, a little oddly shot, like when Donnie was in the mountain. And I think that was sort of VHS, like the movies that you could rent if you were born in 1980. And then I think it just does away with it because it's too nervous about looking old and it wants to look good. And I want to show off all of my fancy cameras. I think there's a brief second where it's like, what if, like Mank is coming out soon, and Fincher tried to shoot it like a 1940s movie. I think there's a brief second and then they're like, nah, dude, no one wants to see that.
and
This guy, seriously, like, he absolutely lost his will to do so many really cool things that
totally.
he kind of started doing.
he's too young.
The entire
So was P.T. Anderson when he made
he's unstoppable force.
Wonderkind.
It was also that he wanted, like, they wanted him to do it modern, whoever the they is, the studios, and he wanted 80s, but because he didn't think the technology, and this is 01, so it's not great technology, that he could show like the kind of isolation that he wanted to, that it would have to be in the 80s. Little did he know that we're even more isolated now with all this technology.
Just have Zoom calls the entire time.
Does Donnie Darko put the nail in the Smurfs fucking conversation, or should we spend 10 minutes on it right now?
On the podcast?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty. I'm gonna
let's
say
do 10
settled.
more
If those-
minutes. Let's do 10 more minutes right now.
That one goes to Greg. I don't know if I've heard just everybody always parrot Donnie Darko my entire life, but he's clearly right? There's no debate here. Why's it even worth talking about?
About whether they have genitals?
Smurfette wasn't there to fuck them. She was made by Gargamel. That's the most I related to him. His vitriol for how wrong they got that.
I don't want to get into the whole thing, but I do think they do hand stuff.
Not to go back to Kevin Smith again, or the fact that we have this podcast talking about these movies seriously, but that scene, Donnie Darko getting so upset that they're talking about pop culture in the wrong way, is the reason why podcasts, pop culture, and white male should be just eviscerated from the planet. Just shut the fuck up. Ryan.
I love that you brought up Kevin Smith, because does the pop culture work as a window into this world and these characters, or does it just feel like Richard Kelly watched a bunch of Kevin Smith movies?
It feels like he has he's got like 4 little speeches written up, and he's gonna find a way to put them in this movie.
Yeah, Kevin Smith is not that necessarily the Orson Welles that you want to fucking go after. I liked watching the other stuff. He's seen the abyss. That's why the water things from the chest look like that. Sort of the outside inside movie stuff. I think that was totally there. His love of Sam Raimi, his and doing Sam Raimi stuff, and they go to the theater and then having Last Temptation of Christ on the marquee with the Evil Dead just to send everything home. Ryan. I like the outside inside movie stuff, but the inside movie stuff, it's not cool anymore. Quentin started it and Kevin killed it. We don't need people talking about our actual life pop culture. Shut the fucking fuck up.
You have 2 hours at the most. It should only be an hour and a half. You don't have time to just stand around and talk about pop culture. Be pop culture.
Oh, that made me have a visceral reaction. I like that. Again, continuing speaking of Kevin Smith, he said that Richard Kelly would be Christopher Nolan if any big studio just started giving him money, and people should. Thoughts?
I mean, I don't think we've done a Nolan movie, right?
No.
Okay, so every time I get a chance to talk about how I don't think that Nolan is he's an okay filmmaker and a bad storyteller, I will throw that in there. And then when we get a chance to actually do one, I'm going to hit it hard, guys. I think Richard Kelly's a big step beyond that, or worse than that. I think that he has cool ideas. And I think that sometimes with people like Richard Kelly and Christopher Nolan, they take the whole theory of every movie needs 5 good scenes and then nothing else. I think they take that way too fucking far.
Very literally.
These are not good storytellers.
And it's nice to have good ideas, but I don't think he knows the difference between his good ideas and his bad ideas. And so that doesn't give him the confidence or the expertise to really... I wouldn't want to give this guy a bunch of money. I don't think you're going to get your money's worth out of it.
Because when like watching this, watching the real or the theatrical and then the director's cut, and when I realized that like the tangential universe is talking about like how movies work, about how do you care about people that are not in your world, and are you okay with like a Deus Ex Machina in a movie? It didn't strike me as super thoughtful about how screenplays and stories work. It more struck me as somebody who's very scared to just like go out on a limb and like do their own thing.
Go your own way.
The main character's first name is Donald. That's weird now, right?
I don't know if that first name should ever be used again, right?
Ever again. Or
Harold Duck.
retroactively.
Mickey Mouse and Harold Duck is probably what we should be dealing with.
I love Harold Duck. Do Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal have crazy chemistry or what?
For me, in my brain, I wanted them to hold hands. I'm a weirdo.
We didn't talk about her in the acting section, but I think she does a great job. Like she elevates, she doesn't feel as parodical as some other people do. And I would watch a movie about her and her character.
She has a little bit more depth, and you get the feeling that like she's up to things and you don't exactly know what she's doing. Like that when Donnie either does or doesn't die when the engine hits the house, she's like sneaking in. Yeah. And you have no idea what she's necessarily up to, but she's obviously got her own thing going on.
And I think we talk about a lot how we want actors to be doing two things at the same time, and that's good acting. If we can see both things.
They should be moving and talking. Yeah.
They should be moving and talking. They should be yo-yoing and eating a hot dog at the same time. But I think the other thing, too, is the thing that'll trick us quicker into thinking that they're good is for us to say, I think she's reading the dialogue from the script, but it definitely feels like she is making it up on the spot. And that is definitely what Maggie Gyllenhaal has in this movie.
In general, that's like her greatest strength.
Yeah.
Man, I like her. When the Deus Ex Machina hits, Jake Gyllenhaal says, Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, he sure does.
That's bullshit, right?
I mean, now that Ryan has explained what goes on in the director's cut, it actually makes way more sense. It's almost like he wants you to know that that's what his intention is. But then when you just had the theatrical release, that doesn't make, like, you understand when you're watching this movie, the theatrical release, you understand that Donnie is figuring things out, but you don't have as much information as he has, so you have no idea why he's doing what he's doing or why he's saying what he's saying.
Yeah, it feels like that. What we're watching is somebody who is 26, and this is the right age where you're supposed to do this. Crack the code of screenwriting. You know, I figured out how
don't show your
work.
Notes.
But no, I think that's what he thought was smart. You know, I think that he thought that he was making
I'm gonna be meta.
Our generation
so
Scream. You know, like this would be thought of as Scream, and it was thought of as highly as Scream, but just for wrong reasons. I think that people are dumb. Like Scream is rad, and this is stupid.
Throughout the movie, we see Frank, the bunny, and we don't know if he is demon from another universe, a manifestation of Donnie's mental illness, and it turns out he's just low-key Keanu Reeves lookalike. Is that bullshit?
Lou Diamond Phillips type. Well, that's where you have to understand what's going on in the movie, but you have to understand it from outside the movie to explain what is going on with Frank and who he is. As the movie exists in its own form, it's like, wait, why is it this guy? Now he's like, how is he related to all of this?
Again, I'm not sure what you guys understand and don't, but he was killed in the tangential universe. Therefore, a lot like Among Me, or what is it, Among Us?
Among Us.
He can now move between all universes.
Ooh, love a good Among Us ref.
when he was killed. So he was shot in the eye, which is why his eye is always irritating him, because apparently there's no...
By Donnie, is that
Donnie,
part of it? Okay.
But Donnie had to kill him in order to get back to the actual universe, which is why Frank showed up to get killed. Kill Jenna Malone.
Even with that being the answer, like that he's just one of the pawns that they're all kind of in, feels like it weakens everything he was pushing.
But you know what Richard Kelly did do, and he was right. He was like, I bet if who cares what it means? I bet if I show a 6-foot-tall man with a freaky bunny mask, it will become iconic. It will be a brand, and it definitely fucking worked. People just like, that's a movie that I like for two reasons. One, I don't understand that, and I think that makes me interesting. And two, look at that tall-ass demon bunny mask.
It is iconic. With that, we've talked a lot about pop culture, and we're talking about Frank now. Is it weird to have a 6-foot bunny and not reference in the movie Harvey at all.
But it is. I mean, like, it isn't it
In
just
of
by the
itself
fact
it
that
is,
it
yeah.
exists? Like,
I guess, is
even
it
the fact
surprising that
it's-
he didn't Richard Kelly this up a little more and
That
scream
is a
Harvey?
the fact that he showed that restraint is actually surprising. I think maybe he forgot what the reference, what the movie he was referencing was called, because I think he forgets who said that cellar door quote.
But this was the time. This was at the end of the time in 2001. But it was definitely the time where, as referencing as many movies as possible was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, if this was a different time, Richard Kelly would have made that a walrus or a octopus or a different fat sea animal. But he made it a bunny, and that was very much on purpose.
And I do think it works kind of on one level, because it does it's not just a reference. It does evoke in us, like, it is a signifier, right? It does evoke in us this thought of, like, okay, if it's a bunny, maybe it is his imagination, because we have that sort of like subtextual understanding from. So I think it's more than just. I think it actually works as a reference. I think it's a little bit more than a reference.
And we do, and the movie says that we do, because we have Bugs, and we have Peter, and we have Easter, and we have Watership Down, and we have, like, it's definitely a go-to animal. So
Also, that head appears a lot of places. Like, it's like you see that bunny's face. Like, there's a scene where he and his sister are talking, and there's like a jack-o'-lantern that is just like the bunny's head.
Right. Yeah,
Like, you see
he
it
does
in
it
the
with a
background
knife.
of a lot of stuff.
I would not give that kid with that medication a knife like that, but
No.
go ahead, y'all.
How exactly does one suck a
It
fuck?
is the end of Speed Round. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, award time. Taste Buds, I'm sure it will shock you to find out that Donnie Darko was nominated for no Oscars.
Whoa! Not even
And-
best director.
Not even Best Director Richard Kelly. So it won no Oscars, but tonight we're going to change that. I'm sure it won a bunch of indie awards or whatever, but those don't matter. The only awards that matter are the Oscars and the Moodies.
1 and 2, and nobody's sure which is 1 or which is 2. I think it changes.
Tonight we're going to be giving out 5, starting out with Ryan. Give us the best Donologue.
All right, so we've talked a lot about how Donnie is just the smartest fucking teenager that's ever existed, and Holden Caulfield hold his beer because Donnie's gonna fucking talk a lot. My favorite, the one that I thought worked the best, that I rolled my eyes at the least, and thought fit the tone of the movie the most, was, hey, Donnie, why don't you come up here and put a chalk mark between love and fear? And I ultimately, I do think this is a movie that, like, tries to challenge binaries, right? Like, tries to say, like, there is no A or B, there's only in between. And so this is the time for him to do it. And also, I think a lot of it, too, is just fucking calling out Bette Davis. Just fucking, anytime you can scream at her, that's going to work for me.
It's what you represent. For me, it's got to be the one that we've talked about so much, the Smurf one, because I don't think it's just like, I guess I didn't take best to mean the one I liked the most so much as the one that is most emblematic. But, like, this is the one that I think that most people think of. It's way more than I knew about the Smurfs previously. And even though I don't love it, I feel like it sort of captures the soul of the movie.
The other thing, too, though, like, Kevin Smith is better at building up some sort of pop culture ramp to show that our
Yeah.
characters care about pop culture, as opposed to just dropping this fucking bomb.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
I think that's
yeah.
why his friends were so shocked, is because he never talked about anything in the real world at all. And then he just knew the whole history of Gargamel and Smurfette. While I agree that the Smurfs one is probably the most iconic, I do think that the one that, like, endears you to the character and lets you use his power for good, right, is the
But, I
love
mean, like,
versus fear.
We mentioned 2 of 8. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a lot.
And I would say, as much as I love Jake Gyllenhaal, they are not all delivered with the same level of skill. You can watch him learn to act throughout this movie. Next up is, because I think one of the things that works surprisingly well for this movie is comedy. So, funniest moment.
I mean, I think that we were texting while watching, like, throughout this week, because we all saw this when we were children, and then watched it. This is the thing that, like, blew us away, right? Like, this is a fucking funny movie.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yeah. For me, it is. God, there's so many. Like, and they come fast and hard. But for me, it's feces.
So do I.
Very nice. It was like, and then the bathroom was covered in feces.
Yeah, what is
One
that?
little girl says to the other, and then the other little girl says, "What's that?" And the first little girl says, "Baby mice, I think." In the best child acting I've seen in my entire life.
Yes, and the movie does not sit on that. It
No.
just keeps motoring.
Yeah,
Like, it's
like
a
they got places to
conversation
go.
you overhear. That is a good one. Ryan, what do you got?
In the director's cut, I don't know if you guys saw the scene where they were in a hotel room because a plane engine fell through their building.
I guess not. No, I don't think that's in the movie. Or the
So they're in a hotel room, and the tiniest sister, the little girl, is like, "I'm gonna go tell." And Donnie Darko, straight face, says, "If you tell, I will fart in your hair while you're sleeping." I think that everything having to do with the Patrick Swayze videos, like we talked about, is hilarious. But I have to pick. We get a little fucking scrumptious little sneak peek at Donnie's mom and dad at date night, and they are white, Dukakis hating, Bush loving Americans, and they are eating a salad, and next to their bowl is a second salad. Like that is basically their entire lives, is just eating one salad, getting ready for the next one. And that, I think that's when it does like the thing that American Beauty tried to do but just wasn't clever enough to do.
Yeah, I think we could do a whole segment on the mom. There's interesting stuff with her throughout, and she's making little choices. Ryan said like 3 things, so I can't track what.
It's the salad to dinner.
Greg's that I think my actual funniest, and I don't know if the movie thinks it's funny, but it's once we're, I guess, back in the real world, and Jenna Malone is finding out like what happened, and the neighbor's kid says he got smushed by jet engine. Like smushed by a jet engine is so fucking funny. And then little kid knows it's weird to wave at the mom, but then does it because Jenna Malone does, and all of that made me fucking piss.
Oh, and the actual winner, by the way, is his therapist is played by Catherine Ross, like 1970s superstar, hottie from The Graduate and Butch Cassidy superstar Catherine Ross. That's his therapist, and he's like, I'm mad because they made me lose at Hungry Hungry Hippos. And her question of like, how did these hippos that are hungry make you feel?
Yes,
How did you get these hungry hippos?
I don't like how often she led him into like hypnotizing jerk off or hypnotize hug me, and he always looked disturbed afterwards. She should have stopped hypnotizing. What is the cringiest moment, Greg?
For me, the cringiest moment was the kiddie porn dungeon. Just because the way everyone in the movie treats it as like a scandal, and it feels like instead of like an awful crime, it's like a really disgusting, awful, terrible thing, and they seem to treat it like it's like just a source of great embarrassment.
But I gotta say though that did ring true to modern times, because everybody was like, he was accused of having kiddie porn, and we must protect him no matter what. You know, like they came to his. Fight his defense because he was accused of having kiddie porn, which is Trumpian.
Yeah, Beth Grant is like, I'm sure you heard the allegations, but somebody put it in there. Like somebody,
a whole dungeon?
A whole dungeon, and then lit it on fire. Ryan, what is yours?
I gotta say it's the treatment of Tarita, because we had bullies in this movie. We had Captain Phantom Planet, which is a cool ass fucking superhero name, and Captain Seth Rogen, which is a less cool superhero name, and they were supposed to be the bullies. But Donnie Darko's friend's treatment of this girl,
is so bad.
That's not typical late '80s bullying. That was fucking rough stuff. And to have Donnie Darko just like not,
hey guys, stop.
Yeah,
not when I'm here.
Come on, I have a reputation. Yeah,
and then for her to like then develop a crush on him, like doubled up on everything.
And this is like, I don't know if this is the movie's fault, but it is. And when this came out, the quote that everybody said wasn't the Gargamel line. It wasn't how did those hippos who are hungry make you feel. Everybody's said "shut up" all the time. Like she is also the butt of the joke in the movie. Yeah, it's cringeworthy, and that has to go to Ryan. Next up is the pound for pound performance. Greg?
I'm just going to go with Jakey Jills. I have a hard time seeing it as anyone else. I was thinking maybe his mom for a little bit, because I think she's doing some interesting things. But really,
do you think that other people have nominees here, Greg?
You said 3 things, Ryan. Sometimes I'm going to say 3 things. Man.
God damn it.
Yeah, Ryan.
Jakey Jills is my answer.
I liked hearing your thought process there, Greg, but
Thank
sometimes
you,
there's
Mike.
whiny babies on the show. Ryan?
It's Mary McDonnell. In the first scene that we see with her, it seems a little easy. Like I think we talked about this already. Of like the satire is like, oh, look at this, misplaced, pill rattled, drunk mom, and she's just gonna act like this. Like it's somewhere in between, like the comatose mom, Allison Janney from American Beauty, and then Amy Poehler from Mean Girls. Like she's somewhere in the middle of there. But as the movie goes on, just her. We sort of realize that she sort of learned how to deal with this world in a way that's just feels better than any other performance. Definitely all the stunt casting. Like she thinks it's all dumb, much like her son does, but is also ready to move on with life and know that like I can't just be hung up on the dumbness. I also have to move forward. I thought she was spectacular. Like, and her wave at Jenna Malone at the end of like everybody in Donnie Darko's family is crying, right? Like they're all beside themselves because he just got crushed by an engine, and she's just leaning against a tree smoking, like knowing that the world is awful. Just and like she just sort of knows the movie that she's in, and then waves at Jenna Malone in this way of like, this is life, baby.
Yeah, that there's like a little bit of relief in her there. There's a little like smiling because isn't it all a sham and there's no choice anyway? Like, yeah, she does so much throughout the movie, but specifically at the end. I agree. It has to go to Mama McDonald. Finally, director is what they're called. Director's signature moment, Ryan.
I did see Southland Tales, and I was not a fan.
What about the box?
Except for one particular scene where J.T. Lake puts his eyes in the camera and sings The Killers. I did not see the box, but I got it, and we've talked about it on the show. I think that we've already proven this true. Like when the guy can get away from dialogue and exposition, and he just lets the song move his camera, I think that is when he is. I don't think that means that he can't make a good movie. I just think that he has to think about what he is doing there and sort of push that across a 2-hour narrative.
Greg,
for me, it's the Notorious like little music video. He, through music and film and the magic of cinema, he makes these 5 little girls, Sparkle Motion, just seem like the coolest 5 people that have ever existed. And that moment is like, the movie is in decline at that moment, but that is like one of the best moments in the entire movie.
We talked about all the movies that we think Richard Kelly watched before making this. There's no way that the makers of Little Miss Sunshine didn't watch Donnie Darko and steal, like, that impactful moment.
We're going to make a movie just about this. For its specificity, we're going to go there.
Boo, yeah, Grandma.
I should have made that a drop. That is your awards. How do we think this is going to go forward in the bracket?
You know, even making it into the season is, I think, an accomplishment, and I'm sort of wondering how that, like, it's kind of surprising that it happened in retrospect. So, good for you, Donnie Darko.
I'm gonna guess that our Patreon listeners know that we have now screened about 4 or 5 movies that should have made the bracket.
Are easily better than this.
That would probably kick this one out. I'm glad that we did it. You know, like for a long time, I was like, "Why do people like this?" And now I get to officially say, why do people like this? You know? Like,
yeah, but with the official stamp.
Right, yeah. I think that there's so much interesting, and again, like we talked about, it's so much funnier. Like, the guy has a ton of ideas. I think that maybe sometimes you need the producers and the studio execs to come in and be like, oh, we got to make a movie here, though, bro.
Yeah.
It is funny reading about S. Darko, the sequel he had nothing to do with, and his hate of it.
And he says he's never seen it.
He's never seen it. There's no way. He watched it and hated it.
If you made a movie and then other people made a sequel to it, could you really not watch that sequel?
But it's weird how much he hates it because it sounds like just the same ideas. So, whatever.
Those were stupid.
It's always very fun and sad to reveal who won, but this one's particularly important because one of you will be my best friend
for the
ad
entire
infinitum.
Season. Oh my gosh! Wow, it's a biggie.
And I don't know if this has ever happened in the history of Movie of the Year. You both got 24 points. So, hey, best friends. We're 3 best friends. I don't have like a runoff trivia.
We tied on
how to break this
incredibly
tie.
low scores, right?
Yeah, you both did shitty, but you both did shitty the same amount.
I think we just take it. I think we just take it as a tie because that's the fewest points I could imagine a tie being.
I will let, and I think the audience can totally agree with me. I will let Greg be the Jake Gyllenhaal of this episode, and I will be the Jenna Malone.
I'm a big fan of both of those in different ways, so I love it. I'm for it. Do we want to reveal what's happening next week? Because it's a special surprise for the listeners.
No, we should, so they can fucking pay money and listen to it.
It's not for paying.
Oh.
Dude, I mean, please go to, like you heard the commercial, go to patreon.com/.
Oh, you mean the other thing.
And listen to our episode about, wait, did we decide it? I'd already forgotten. What are we doing for our Patreon episode? We'll do 2 things.
AI. But
AI, right. That's why I don't give a shit.
I have a special reveal. The 3 of us, because we're the best at talking about movies and we're the best on a podcast, the 3 of us are going to do Spy Kids next week. It can only be done by the 3 of us.
No, Ryan, that's not the reveal. The 3 of us will not be talking about Spy Kids.
What do you mean, Mike? What do you mean?
There's going to be some sort of alternate side tangential dimension coming out. And have you ever wondered what if the Unnatural 20s hosted Movie of the Year? You're going to get it as they come in and do Spy Kids.
Spy Kids.
Till then.
What if it gets the most amount of downloads we've ever had?
I will only be I will be like, I haven't even seen that sequel to Movie of the Year. I don't even know.
Then I'll say, you know what? That was a great cross-promotional opportunity, blah, blah, blah. We did a good thing there. All right?
Till then, keep watching those movies.